Hey, long time no see, right? Yeah. Okay, I'm back from a trip. I've been just taking a small little break from everything. It's complicated. I don't want to talk about it, okay? Yeah? Cool. Today, we're gonna talk about something. I'm gonna teach you things, you know? Not on a computer, not on Premiere Pro, not in Lightroom. I'm just gonna tell you basic stuff. So this video is called Camera Basics #1 because I'm probably gonna do a lot of these camera basic stuff. So today we're talking about ISO, shutter speed, and aperture. The three main things that's always in your camera. So this will teach you for will teach you for photography and or video. Okay, because in video it's kind of different. In photography you could change it sometimes, and it depends on what you're shooting, right? Okay, real quick, let's talk about video. Video, usually you film in 24 frames per second, right? A lot of people film in 30. I find that kind of weird. I don't like 30 frames per second. That's totally up to you. A lot of people now, because they have better cameras, they film 60 frames per second, which I'm still not a fan of because I really like that motion blur. Because I don't know, it's kind of satisfying when you look at it. It's more cinematic, if you know what I mean. But yeah, when you're shooting 24 frames per second, your shutter speed has to be somewhere in like 50. That's your shutter speed. Because if you're doing over that, it's gonna be like weird and choppy. If you're doing under that, it's gonna be like too motion blur. And 50 is like the good hotspot. That's where you have to be. This is where you make the video. Shutter speed, 50. Got that out of the way. Your aperture. Don't move. Your aperture, it depends. It entirely depends of what you're shooting, right? If you want to shoot like an interview or something like this, like I'm shooting right now, right? You want definitely, like, you can have a pretty good open aperture, because you can have that depth of field. It's gonna make really satisfying look, and then the main thing in that shot, which is you, is going to be in focus, and that's really good. For example, if it's something more like action, if you have like some stabilizer, some gimbal, you want to make an action film short sequence, maybe some guy mountain biking or someone doing rad tricks on a skateboard for just an example. Then you would actually more close it, because you want to see the whole entire thing, okay? You don't really need a depth of field because you're probably gonna shoot it on a wide lens, because that's how you always shoot action stuff. And you're going to your shot is gonna be all in focus, which is good because it's action. There's always something going on, right? So it always depends. You could just play around with it. It's totally. ISO sensitivity is measured of the camera's ability of capturing light. So the sensor in the camera measures the light, and then the ISO, you regulate the sensitivity of that sensor capturing that light. Okay? So ISO is always kind of difficult because you have to look at your environment, right? if it's too dark and you put too much of an ISO, you're gonna have that like really disgusting grain, which sucks, honestly. You look at your computer, you see that grain, you're like, well, and honestly, it kind of sucks, because if you took all that time and effort to do all of that, then it kind of sucks. There's cameras now that you put a high ISO and then it's not gonna change anything. But if you do put a lower ISO, always save ISO for last, all the time. Because, like for example, right now I'm shooting at 400 ISO, right? And it's pretty good because it's not, there's not going to be too much like that noise. There's not going to be any of that noise. If you're outside, if there's broad daylight, then you just put it on 100, and then you're not going to have any noise, which is going to look really good. It's going to look sharp. It's going to look great. And this is technically all that you do, because again, it depends what you're shooting. And for photo, it always depends. You could now you could play with the shutter speed, because you're not making a picture in 24 frames per second, right? You're making a picture. If it's a fast moving object and you want it to get that object in focus so you could see it, then you're gonna put your shutter speed really high, because you wanna get that object in focus, right? Imagine if it's like an eagle flying really quickly, because they're super quick, right? And you want a high shutter speed to catch that eagle flying. Am I right? And if it's, for example, I really like night photography. You put your shutter speed really low. You could see those the cars when they move. They have those lights, and it looks really good. I'm gonna put up a picture. And yeah, it's really fun to play with that, especially at night when it's entirely dark and you're like, oh no, my photo time is over, I have to go home, there's no more light. No, you could still stay, and if you have a tripod on you, you don't need a tripod. You could put like on some boxes or on like a, I don't know, it depends. But it's better with a tripod though. Yeah, you could get some really good pictures out of it. With the aperture, again, you still play with it. Okay, if you're somewhere outside, and you could put you don't have to make a big aperture, you could put it small, because if you're, for example, making a landscape, you need some depth of field or something like that, right? So, and if you're doing a portrait, most likely, to make it better looking, to make it sharper, and to make it to have a good depth of field, you have to open your aperture for that. And that's gonna make your portrait, the person that's standing, it's gonna make it look phenomenal. And yeah, that's technically it. It's not that hard. This is camera basics, so if you're really good in that, then you don't really have to watch this video. Why am I saying this in the beginning of the video? Never mind. But if you're a beginner, and this is a great video for you, because you can learn more about your camera and how it could work, and how you could make better pictures every single time you take your camera somewhere with you, or make better videos. Yeah, this is a short video. This is the end of the video, and see you in the next one. And sorry for holding up for a whole month. Yeah, I'm so sorry, but I can do anything with it now. Okay, peace.